Hello students, let us begin with Unit 6 under the heading Reproduction. Before we deal with the reproduction, we will understand what exactly lifespan and different phases are. The period from birth till natural death of an organism is called as lifespan. Lifespan, if it is longer, then it is differentiated into three stages. First stage is juvenile or vegetative phase. Why these two different words are used? When you explain about animals, then better to use juvenile phase is the first phase of lifespan. And when you are talking about the lifespan of plants, then you have to use the word vegetative phase. So juvenile phase or vegetative phase, where the young one will continue to grow by cell division, cell elongation, cell differentiation, overall development, and try to attain a maturity. The second phase of an organism in the lifespan, where they are capable to produce their young ones. This is reproductive phase. So in reproductive phase, the organisms with simple organization, where they don't have sex organs, gonads, they are unable to produce gametes. Some exceptions are there, but generally I am telling the simplest organization. When it is found in the organism, then the single organism can produce its progeny. So it is uniparental reproduction, where no fusion of male and female gamete occur. Hence, it is called apomixis. And in broad way, we call it as asexual phase. While as the complexity among organisms increases, they will develop the gonads, either the male and female gonad occurring in the same body. In case of bisexual organisms, we call them as monoecious, or in most developed organisms, sexes are separated. We call them as unisexual or dioecious, where the organism is either male or female. So whatever the case is, the gonads have special germ cells which undergo meiotic divisions to produce haploid gametes. Once they produce the gametes, they will carry respective genomes, paternal, maternal. It is a genetic makeup of an organism carried through the gametes, and gametes undergo fusion. This is fertilization. As the two different sources are involved in the reproduction, so we call it as biparental, and this is sexual reproduction. So thus, organism in reproductive phase either reproduce sexually or reproduce sexually, which is uniparental or biparental. And once the reproductive phase is over, the organism is approaching towards the death by showing aging process, where the functions of the organs slows down, intake of the nutrients will decrease, metabolic reactions will slows down, enzymatic activities are not properly regulating, coordination is lost, and then this phase we call senescence phase, the end phase of lifespan. Thus, exam point of view, you must remember the definition of lifespan, the period from birth till natural death of an organism. It carry 1 mark weightage. For 2 marks, they will ask you phases included in the lifespan. There are 3 phases when the lifespan is longer. Phase number 1, vegetative phase or juvenile phase. Second, reproductive phase, where they reproduce sexually or sexually. And third, senescence phase, where the organism show aging process leading towards death. This is first part of the first topic under Unit 6. In second part, we are starting with the definition of reproduction. Reproduction is the main feature of living organism. Apart from having protoplasmic mass showing growth, performing metabolic activities, they are conscious and they will reproduce. So considering the features of living organisms from the topic living world, we are moving in detail account of reproduction. The biological process in which organism will produce its progeny similar to themselves is known as reproduction. There are two types of reproduction: sexual reproduction, apomixis, amphimixis. No gamete production, no fertilization, no embryogenesis, that is no embryonic development. While in sexual reproduction, gametogenesis, production of gametes, fertilization, fusion of gametes forming the zygote, undergoing embryonic development. Here, in asexual reproduction, the progenies which are produced, they are identical to the parents, both morphologically and genetically. Such individuals, we call them as clones. So clones are produced in asexual reproduction, while in sexual reproduction there is no question of clones, because the two gametes from two different bodies are coming together and fusing. So there is a genetic recombination giving the variations. That's why when you compare the progenies of same parents or progenies compared with the parents, you will never find 100% similarity. They will have differences, and these differences we call them as variations. So variations are considered as raw material for natural selection in the process of evolution. Whatever I said just now, this you will understand in the next unit where we learn genetics and evolution. So just compare asexual reproduction with sexual reproduction, uniparental, biparental. This is apomixis, that is amphimixis. No gametogenesis, fertilization, embryogenesis, but there it is gametogenesis, fertilization, embryogenesis. In asexual reproduction, clones are produced, no variations are found, while in sexual reproduction, no clones, but variations are more. Asexual reproduction will take less time, but produced progenies are more in number. Sexual reproduction will take more time, but survival rate of the young one is definitely more. Adaptability is maximum in case of the progenies generated by sexual reproduction. This is second part of the topic, where you should know the differences between asexual and sexual reproduction and definition for a clone, which is continuously asked question for 1 mark. In the next part of the topic, we are undergoing modes of asexual reproduction. We will begin with unicellular organisms which are included in Monera, Protista and some in Mycota. So in first 3 kingdoms, Monera including prokaryotes, Protista including eukaryotes, and some fungi which are representing unicellularity. They are single-celled organisms, so there is no complexity at all. Once they attain maturity by increasing cell size and shape, they undergo simple cell division, which you have learnt last year under the heading mitosis. So these organisms in favorable condition undergo normal cell division resulting into 2 cells. So those 2 cells are their progenies, which are similar to parents. This is a simplest mode of asexual reproduction by cell division method known as binary fission. Let me tell you one thing, though it is not there in the syllabus, when climatic conditions are adverse, that time the unicellular organisms, they show karyokinesis, division of the nucleus. They will not show cytokinesis. So multiple nuclei they will produce in a single cell till the unfavorable conditions retains, and once favorable condition commence, then all these nuclei will released and each representing a single individual. This is we call multiple fission. In unicellular organisms, there is no senescence, no aging. Hence, we call them as immortal. They don't show death in their lifespan. Simple cell division itself is a mode of reproduction. As their lifespan is short, survival rate is less, so nature favored them by reproducing either by binary fission or by multiple fission. The next asexual reproduction mode is by producing outgrowths or ingrowths. A parental body will develop a protrusion. This we call buds. Now there are two types of buds. The buds developing on the external body surface or the buds develop inside. This we will study in detail in the next session. So this phenomena where a parent body will produce a protrusion called bud, either exogenous or endogenous, called budding. As we move ahead, where most of the fungi belongs to kingdom Mycota, to avoid competition, they produce special spores by either mitosis or by meiosis. Mitotically produced spores are diploid, meiotically produced spores are haploid, and these spores can disperse. So, to avoid competition and to establish population in a new habitat, they have a provision of giving the spores. There are two types of spores here, motile. In rainy season, they can easily swim with the help of flagellae, non-motile in winter and in summer, so wind can carry them easily. This is the next mode of asexual reproduction called spore production. As we move ahead, in kingdom Plantae, the vegetative parts like root, stem and the leaf, actually they are not meant for reproduction, but all the plants are not producing flowers. So these vegetative parts store food, attains maturity and they start producing the young ones. This process we call vegetative propagation. So in the next few sessions, I'll be explaining the different propagules and their further development. Apart from this, the organism's body may cut into small pieces and each piece is capable to develop into young one. This we call fragmentation. There are some organisms accidentally, if they lose any body part, they can regenerate. This is regeneration. And now human being is interfering in the plant reproduction, and this mechanism we call artificial propagation by grafting and layering. This is slightly away from the syllabus, but for the knowledge sake, I have introduced this word to you. Thus, the modes of asexual reproduction included in our NCERT syllabus are binary fission, example amoeba, budding, example hydra, then spore production, motile and non-motile, and further vegetative propagation. With this, I'll conclude this session and we'll meet in the next session to learn different modes of spore production and vegetative propagation. Thank you very much.